is Earth. It will deal damage if... Oh wait, what?
Yeah, recording now.
Okay. So the last element I have selected is Earth, meaning if the boss is in Earth, it'll take damage. So Fury. Yeah. So iframes took over. So the boss is currently in Fire, meaning she will not take any damage from any other element other than Fire. Okay. Tanks to hit. Tanks to hit again. Nothing. So the boss took no damage from that. Okay, so I'm going to cycle to... So the boss took no damage from it, so...
Yeah, don't forget the screenshots.
Yeah. I'll probably... You know I have the SFM model, I can just take the screenshots for that, there.
Yeah, but I think they are here slightly transparent.
Mm-hmm.
So you make sure. So yeah.
And actually, I think I can end up dying to the boss here. I'm actually gonna die because the boss provides a pretty good base screenshot. Here.
Ready?
There. There. Cycle to an element so I can do more testing. And the thing is, trying to keep them on screen is actually kind of difficult. There. Nope, that's... Ow! Is that fire? Yeah, that's fire. I can tell by the red coloring.
You also open OBS?
What?
You also open OBS or not?
I have OBS opened.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a different element. And so the screenshots are being taken. Okay, all we need now is just Earth, and then we can test out more things. Dude, swap to Earth, come on! Honestly, I think this fight has probably killed more speedruns and then like the other fights in the game.
Well, don't forget about Togarai taking a million of hits.
Well, for there, he actually does have a weak spot. If I hit him when his swords are stuck in the ground, you can damage him, deal full damage. But for some weird reason, only to me... Yeah, there we go. I got all the screenshots.
Yep.
Okay, what else? Okay. So the boss currently is set to Earth. So if I swap to Earth toggle dark, and then do it... So, will this deal damage? Boss missed again.
Don't switch. There we go.
What?
Oh! Took a hit!
The boss didn't... Yeah, well, they're all going to hit anyways. Okay... Nothing?! How did that deal no damage? Okay, so I swapped over to Earth. Ha! Okay, so the boss... Okay, so...
Here we go!
So, this does damage. Because it was underneath is the same element. But if I swap out to fire and then hit, no damage.
But what about when you combine like, example, pull up the Aether and then switch to the Aether breath?
I'm not sure.
Like you remember the glitch?
Yeah, I know. Oh. Okay, so but first I have to wait for it to change. Okay, there we go. So if I flail, nothing. In fact, the flail does no damage, even though the flail was directly connecting.
Interesting.
So okay, that seems to be electricity. So if I pull this out and then detonate, okay, so that dealt damage. damage. What about... Okay, so I can hold... Kind of. So let me... Okay, so the boss still got slowed. Okay, so let me... Okay, so this boss is very janky. Okay, so I'm able to damage it via through if the element already is out on the field. Meaning, I think if I swap over to electricity, I drop this here, and the boss walks into it. Okay, it doesn't take damage from it. Okay, let me load state to reset the progress, to reset my thing so I don't have to die. So the boss, I think, always starts off with the electricity as their default power element selected. Unless that actually isn't, then it's just because they choose a random element. And so, honestly, this boss actually is worth experimenting on. So
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do this. Okay, so I can hold this, and weirdly enough, it drains at the same rate that it normally would. So if this boss switches over to electricity, okay, so I'm gonna wait till the boss swaps over to electricity. Come on, swap the thing. Okay, hold on, I can actually try this. Okay, so it does the same damage regardless. What about with Fire Breath? It's because of the fireballs dealing damage before swapping. It's because this is the same element.
Also, even the
Yeah. What?
Also, you had no hitbox. You had no hitbox.
I think as well, during that attack, you are actually scripted to be invincible. I think as well, when it comes to that attack in particular, the game still sees Spyro... Like, here's what I think is going on with the attacks involving the elemental dragon.
Mm-hmm.
For one, and let me, like, start the fight over. How the boss determines if it takes damage or not is probably a bit complicated. Here's what I think is going on involving the attacks. When Spyro is doing any of the attacks that have a link, that turn him into a hitbox, the game locks his element. And meaning when I do that spin move with lightning, the elemental dragon still takes damage. Which even if I'm using Dark Aether,
Interesting.
However, the boss is only able to switch between fire, lightning, ice, and earth, not Dark Aether. Meaning the game doesn't technically classifies Dark Aether as a separate element. This is why I can't damage the boss with any of the attacks outside of the auto combo, which utilizes the default element, the previous element I have selected.
Yeah.
And when swapping, for example, I have Earth selected right now, meaning none of my attacks will deal damage to the elemental dragon. In fact, while it still puts the boss in hit stun, it doesn't matter that much. Even when I swap to Dark Aether, the game still remembers what elements I have selected. So you can see here, I'm able to damage it because my attacks are registered as Earth.
Yeah.
While underneath, but visually I'm selected as Dark Aether, but the beam is considered as a separate attack. Meaning even though I have the same element selected, I still don't deal damage. Meaning, theoretically, this boss is kind of strange in a way. Here, once again, and referring to the element tree again, when the boss uses a timer to decide on how long it should take in order to swap, what element it should swap to at the start of the fight. Right, so as soon as I open up the fight itself, unpause, and the timer starts. The boss currently has electricity selected, and once that invisible timer runs out, so I'll dodge to avoid the attack. the boss will swap over to another element. The game doesn't bother. It's randomly chosen, and this includes duplicate elements. This is why it sometimes feels like the boss takes longer to swap to another element.
Yeah.
It's because the boss is getting multiple rolls out of the same element at once. And compared to, say, a Gaul who does certain attacks also based on a timer. The boss's attacks are actually phase 1 Cinder, meaning no dark fire attack or anything really. It's only the default attacks. Like scratch, the headbutt, and the cave, and the wing hit and tail smack. Like, the boss will always do those exact same attacks, no matter what. Because the boss is using the framework of standard Cinder. Along with that, the boss actually has less health than Cinder directly. Normally Cinder has like 4 or 5 health bars, layered health, meaning by default, the elemental dragon has lower stats than normal. This also technically means that the elemental dragon is technically weaker than Cinder. Like here, I'm gonna let the boss like land a hit on me. You can tell that the boss does quite a bit of damage still, even with the attacks, with their wing strikes being the strongest attacks in the game that they have available to them. See, that thing wipes out most of my health. And the boss is programmed to do a taunt after killing Spyro.
All right.
And once again, you saw how the boss was fire in the prior attempt, but reset the electricity at the start of the fight because the timer was still progressing even though Spyro was done in their death animation. And generally speaking, this boss, as complicated as I made things look, is actually really simple. Well, the game simply does a check to see what attack is currently being let out by Spyro. For one, if I swap over to... So if I hit the boss now, no damage done. But if I swap over to the right element, if the boss will let me, I'm able to damage the boss. Okay, a game, as you can see. But as soon as I swap over to a different element, no damage. Unless the boss decides to swap over to the same element that I just did. I mean, theoretically, if I were to do this, considering that my only element I'm allowed to use for Eternal Night, if I get around to playing the game with classic Spyro's move attacks and abilities, when it comes to this boss fight, I just have to hope that it spends the most amount of time in its fire state in order to damage it, and pray for good RNG that it switches back. Compared to...
Like, good luck with that boss, yeah.
Yeah. However, things get more complicated. So I have Fury ready, I'm gonna start it. I'm using the same Fury type as the boss itself, not Dark Aether. Meaning, as soon as the blast hits... Wait, the boss hit me out of it! And the boss took damage from the Fury, which actually surprisingly is low. I was expecting the boss would take much more damage compared to the other Furies in the game. The boss took way less damage than I was expecting. And also, I didn't know the boss could...
Maybe you can show out how much damage deals every Fury.
Well, not so much against this boss in particular, with Dark Aether in particular. Or that would be a different vid. And because as the Fury is the same type, it dealt damage. So I'm gonna wait till the boss swaps over to something other than that, and then I activate it. Iframes took over. So So the elemental dragon took a fuck ton of damage from that. And also took a lot of damage and kicked me off the ledge. You know, I never got killed by the boss from getting pushed off the ledge.
Let's do it.
Did you see that? I just swapped over to loaded state as soon as the boss entered that animation. Okay, I'm surprised how much reach that has. And also, the game does seem to do different checks. I actually am going to look at the boss's wiki in particular, wiki page in particular, to see why,
There you go.
how long it generally takes for the boss to swap elements. Also, I think I was getting hit multiple times. Or I think the boss was getting hit multiple times. Meaning those spikes actually... nope, they dealt the same damage. Same damage dealt.
Okay, and then what about Earth? Just... yeah.
And then once again I have to wait for the boss to swap again.
Yeah.
I do think this boss as well is one of my favorites in the game due to how unique it is compared to the rest of the bosses.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's literally the one I was looking for. Wait, the boss was clipping into the ground a little. Despite the multiple waves, the attack only hits once. Basically, the Furies act as a screen nuke. And once again, same damage. I think all Furies, excluding Dark Aether, deal the same damage regardless. I think all the Furies in the game deal, excluding Dark Aether, possibly, they deal the same damage. For one, this boss is special, considering the fact that you can't normally obtain Fury in this boss fight. Meaning the only way you can really get Fury would be to obtain it before the fight itself.
Yeah.
Most of the bosses, I think, in the game have usually more than enough health to tank a Fury hit. Once again, I will actually save yourself the time of doing the calculations on how much health the boss has. Generally speaking, this boss is pretty interesting to how the game checks to see what attack it is that's hitting it. For example, the flail that I'm using when I swap over to Dark Aether is actually technically a ghost flail. Meaning the game visually is rendering it, but isn't directly making contact, but the game itself doesn't see it's real. It's why my attacks phase right through it. Then there is the weird situation with the melee. When it comes to the melee, Dark Aether is when utilizes the last element you had selected for its attributes. This meaning if I swap over to electricity and get smacked out of the air, smack it, you can see the boss takes damage. But if I swap over to Dark Aether, same thing, the boss takes damage. But if I swap over to something else and then strike, nothing. And the boss won't take any damage. Even if I swap over to the respective element, the beam will deal no damage. Hell, it won't even push the boss back, as this attack is unclassified. Because the attack is unclassified, has no classification in terms of its elemental attributes, the game won't deal any damage to the boss. Meaning, theoretically, this boss is more of like a test of knowledge.
But I'm very curious, how quickly you will kill the elemental dragon with the lightning whirlwind?
Mm.
Like you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna do this. Oops, that was a misclick. Like, I was trying to load slot 1, but the game acted weird. From videos I've seen, the most efficient way of killing the elemental dragon, again, would be through the earth flail. Yeah, my mana ran out, but it did a lot of damage. Look how much damage it dealt with the plus the slowdown.
Wow.
Meaning, if your first element with the elemental dragon is one that you can deal a massive amount of damage to, it's best to actually use that one instead. Swapping over to the flail, well, the earth flail, to see its damage. The highest damage it can be done. Keep in mind, due to human error, I'm not able to get the frame 1 on advantage on the boss when it gets ready to do an attack. So if I wait till the boss swaps again, I'll be getting bad rolls every single time.
Funny.
Let's do it.
The boss is gonna knock me off the ledge again!
It's okay. We can try again.
You kind of ride the boss a little bit. And severely confuse them. I think what's going on here is that the boss is trying to do an attack, but doing an angle-oriented attack because I'm standing at a weird angle. The boss doesn't know how to react. So if you want to screw around with both Cinder and the Elemental Dragon, this boss doing that is highly recommended. I got interrupted. I got interrupted again! Seems like there's generally a sweet spot. Yeah, this attack... Doing the flail method is very risky. I did very little, well, in terms of the whole gauge, because I kept getting interrupted. So if you're not doing any quick kill methods...
I mean... When you, like... Okay, when you're using a lightning whirlwind and you are nearby to a green crystal, can you... I'm sure... I believe you can one-cycle that boss.
Yeah, that's worth a shot here. I'm gonna swap. Okay, so the boss generally puts me here. If I lure them over here, I'm pretty sure I can... Okay, yeah, I can break the crystals. Unless the boss swaps. Unless the boss swaps out of nowhere, meaning the only reason I did that much damage on the first attempt was because the boss was...
Because the timing, no?
Yeah, the boss kept... The reason I was able to deal that much damage on my first go was merely because I kept getting the dice roll necessary. I kept getting repeated electricity dice rolls.
Mm-hmm.
The boss, by default, has a 1 in 4 chance of landing on any of the 4 elements that I mentioned that can be upgraded. It would have been 1 in 5 if Dark Aether was included. However, if the boss had one special line of code in there where it cannot get repeat elements, it would be a 1 in 3 for each element, not counting the one that it has selected. Generally speaking, every time that timer runs out, the boss also will do a dice roll of which element it will get. And on a 4-sided dice, which I don't know if 4-sided dices actually exist. Generally speaking, when the boss says, I don't know, lands on a 1, and with the current element of the boss being lightning, 1 will be using as an example. I'll describe each of the elements in terms of like number order, or in the order you obtain them. Well, mostly. Just in terms of numbers and how I think about them. And so, fire will be referred to as 1, lightning will be referred to as 2, ice 3, and earth 4.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna...
But I mean... Okay. From the word of testing, how quickly when you let's say you speedrunning this game, how quickly you kill this boss? Okay, it's lightning right now, so...
Well, generally, it depends on the RNG. This boss throws a lot of RNG at your face. For one, there's the element switching. Like I mentioned, the boss can get repeat rolls, meaning every time the timer runs out, I have to get lucky that it lands on the exact same element each and every time.
Yeah.
Meaning, under normal conditions, it's very difficult to speedrun this boss just because of the element switching mechanic.
Hold on. I'm gonna... Continue. Okay, I have put up the stop the timer, so let's see how you... So let's see the test.
Yeah, so you'll hear the music, and then that's when you want to unpause it.
Yeah, so 3, 2, 1, there we go.
Yep. I have to, once again, I'm not a speedrunner, so I don't know any quick methods of killing the boss. Once again, swapped, meaning the run's dead. Dead because the boss swapped over to the wrong element, swapped over to an element that I wasn't using. Here, you can go ahead and stop the timer.
I wanted to try how quickly to kill him, yeah.
Well, like I mentioned, the boss has a lot of RNG calls. If I was going for the fastest time to kill the boss, the speed, like I mentioned, the boss has RNG involved. Meaning, if you get multiples of the same dice roll of the element that you need, you can get a quick kill method on the boss. So like I mentioned, here, I can go ahead and start it, and we can actually do an actual test to see how long it takes for the boss.
Yeah.
For me to actually...
Yeah, when I saw the into Dragon challenges that you quickly react with switching between the elements. So I want to see how quickly you react on that boss.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead and reset the... Yeah.
3, 2, 1. There we go.
Yep. Oh, that's the wrong element. And that was a general mistake on my part. Once again, iframes are taking over.
Bye.
Yep. Yeah. And once again, I need to use the crystals to deal any real damage. And not get comboed.
Lightning.
And then the boss. Yeah, and then the boss swapped over to the right element again. I probably would have gotten a faster time on the boss.
30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds, mainly because of the good RNG swap. For one, both fire and electricity deal some of the highest damage when fully maxed out, not counting in Dark Aether.
Yeah.
Meaning, theoretically, the fastest you can kill the boss is under normal conditions, under normal conditions, it would be roughly around 30 seconds if the RNG calls are relatively good, and you don't fuck up at the very start. Here's generally more things. If the boss started off as Earth, the most risky and most risky method of damaging the boss If you get multiple bad RNG calls,
You are
plus
pretty,
the boss could
we are pretty much fucked.
yes, you're going to get it pretty screwed over by the boss in terms of mechanics. Then there is fire. Like, here's how each of the elements work the best. Fire and electricity. Yeah, fire and electricity. If you get multiple good RNG calls on the boss, you can deal a fuck ton of damage to the boss itself. And at the start of every start of every attempt and fight, the boss will have a random element chosen at the start, because the timer will start at 0, so the game doesn't, freak out.
Even the boss died? Like, so?
Yeah, the boss died. Right when its health bar reaches 0, that's generally when I call time.
I didn't much catch it up because yeah.
Okay, generally speaking, this fight is technically a run killer.
Yeah.
So, for example, say like I'm speedrunning the game. I had a pretty amazing run, and then it came to this boss fight here. Because I'm trying to go for the quickest way of dispatching all the enemies, as I'm doing a new game plus run, meaning I have all upgrades plus Dark Aether. Because this boss is immune to Dark Aether, the only way I can damage it is through the 4 elements that I have by default. Then comes down to the fight itself. The start of the fight has the dragon start off with fire, a decent damage option, but not perfect. I deal damage with the highest damaging move that I have for it, the whirlwind, the cosmic dash, followed immediately by ice. Sure, ice can slow it down, but that doesn't really do that much against it.
I mean,
Then
it would be much like the time killer when you probably like, I don't know, switch to the representative element, then switch to switch to Dark Aether and do the multi-hit combo. Once the elemental dragon switches a color, you toggle off the Dark Aether, switches to the representative color. Real quick, switch to Dark Aether again and do the multi combo again. That's probably what saves you a lot of time.
Yes, however, electricity does generally more damage by itself.
Yeah.
So if I go ahead and start the fight, swap over to Dark Aether, do the auto combo. Sure, it does a lot of damage, but the boss can still switch elements even while stun locked.
Yeah.
It's literally swapped.
Yeah, now switch to call and again.
Yeah. Yeah, you can swap out somehow. Once again, I got multiple good RNG calls. Boss dead.
Yeah.
There. Once again, I got multiple good RNG calls on that electricity phase. Generally, the fastest way of killing the boss is getting good RNG. For example, if I get, say, the fight starts off in the same way that it does, electricity as the first phase. So I'm going to try and mix up the fight itself. I'm going to use electricity whenever it's electricity, but I'm going to use Dark Aether when it's using any of the others.
Okay.
Yeah. And generally see how efficient it is at killing the boss. Because speed and efficiency is the best way of killing the boss. once again, I ran out. I mean, I can't do the auto combo. So theoretically, I got bad RNG here. What? Excuse me? The auto combo isn't starting. Hello?
Hello, game?
Game?
Fuck up. Okay, I feel the game fuck up for every second.
Yeah, and that would have effectively killed a run. That actually would have killed a run.
Yeah.
That actually would have killed a speed run. Because the boss did multiple bad RNG. Because not only did the boss do multiple bad RNG calls, well, it's because it didn't swap to electricity. The game also glitched out. I've never witnessed something like that. That is weird. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to close out my emulator. Alright?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, generally speaking, like I mentioned, the boss is pretty simple in how it's coded and how it swaps elements. There's a 1 in 4 chance for it to swap to fire, a 1 in 4 chance to swap to electricity, a 1 in 4 chance to swap to ice, and a 1 in 4 chance to swap to earth.
Mm-hmm.
With it being able to call all the same roll multiple times in a row. Alternatively, the boss could have instead been made to cycle between elements in a particular order. For example, it could have swapped from. It always starts off the fight, right, as fire every single attempt, no matter how many times you load the fight. Right. However, instead they took a different route with the boss, where instead it swaps between every single element randomly.
Yeah.
Which makes the boss a bit more unique. Also, I'm gonna send you the screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably get better ones. Also, 3 of them are literally either the start of the tail attack, heck, or literally the end of it, I noticed. I actually wonder if I put in the... You're still... Also, I think your OBS is still on.
I'm gonna turn it off. Yeah.
Yeah.